Hi, welcome back to me, Mats, and Johan that will try to write some code live in front of you. Today, we are going to do a recap what we did the last time because we had some technical issues that made it was not recorded, and also Twitch didn't save it, but we have enabled that on Twitch as well. So now you hopefully, if you want, can see us in how many times you want.
Yay.
And hopefully the resolution and the text should be readable for everyone.
Yeah. So should we start with the recap what we did last time?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. Let's open Visual Studio. Transition. Yes. Here you can see a short API that I did, very advanced. We will use that later if we will get to that point. So what we did, we created a retail app. What we call it? Random hot stuff.
A random stuff store app.
Random stuff store app. Okay. And what we did, we created a new shell, and we added some tabs to it. And we also had a lot of issues with the font icons for the tab bar.
Yep.
But we realized that there was a bug in Xamarin Forms that now are fixed. We found the issue on GitHub, but I don't think it's released in a stable Xamarin Forms release. But they have fixed that one, but we will wait for the stable release before we try again. We don't want to spend 20 minutes on the stream for something that is a bug in Xamarin Forms. So, yes, anything more you want to add about what we did last time?
Didn't we add some views itself?
Yes, we had some views. We added a product view, and we also started to use a collection view here. But today I think we will start with the new view instead. We'll create the store view.
Okay.
With a list of all stores that this awesome store have. And that's where my API came in. They're very advanced. We can take a look at this. Just the Azure function where it returned a couple of stores. And I also added a store model project that we can use both in the API and in the app.
Sweet.
Sweet, yes. So what do you think? Should we start to add...
What are you looking at me for?
You're the boss.
We'll need to add the view and the view model for the stores, and maybe we could add maps to the mix if we have the time.
Yeah. But should we start with, for example, to add tiny MVVM or some other MVVM frameworks?
Yeah.
Libraries, frameworks. Okay, well this is a shared project. We need to add the tiny MVVM NuGet packages to both the store Android and the store iOS project. And we have to do that separately. One thing I miss with the Visual Studio for Mac is that you can't manage solution dependencies as you can do in the Windows version. So you can add them to multiple projects once. So let's add a package. There are two packages we need to add. We have tiny MVVM forms here.
So what do we solve with tiny MVVM?
We got some stuff for free that we don't have to write every time we're building an app.
Okay.
So it's an open source project mainly created by me, but I know that you have added some pull requests, and maybe Mats as well.
Maybe.
At least you have given me a lot of feedback to help me change things. And we also can add the project tinymvm.outfuck, so we get some dependency injection stuff integrated in tinymvm. It's possible to add other providers as well, but I only use outfuck, so I have only created that provider. But it's created in a way that you easily can add your own. We can also go to this little page. And you can see all the open source libraries that we created, me, Johan, Carl-Henrik, and Mats.
Yeah.
All the tiny stuff.se or tiny stuff organization on GitHub.
Press accept so it installs in the background.
Okay.
While we view the documentation.
Yeah. down here somewhere we will find tiny MVVM. Yeah. And here is all the documentation about how to use it and all the source code, and you're open to contribute if you want to. Right now I'm working with building some improvements for Xamarin Forms shell, but they are not released yet, but you can still use it with Xamarin Forms shell. You cannot use the URI navigation and things like that yet together with tiny MVVM, but what's great with shell is that the old navigation still works. So here can you see the documentation. We have a need to run initialize, and we have also it's all started with the navigation helper, because I don't wanted to use some of the other bigger MVVM frameworks, because the only thing that I want to abstract from the Xamarin Forms world was the navigation. But 2 days in that project I realized I want to have some more MVVM stuff in it as well. Then I created my own large MVVM library.
This is another
and call it tiny, and
Yep.
everyone thinks it's tiny. No, it's pretty tiny. But what's in here is we have a view base for all views that make some stuff and regarding to life cycle and trigger some things in the view models. It also helps you to add the view models in an easier way. You just use generics. You have view base of the class that your view model is. You can also do that in SAML. We'll show that later. We have the navigation stuff in it. We have IOC. We have tiny command, because if we don't want to have Xamarin Forms references in our view models, we also need to implement our own implementation of iCommand.
And basically it uses the view model as the binding context by default, and you don't have to type anything in the code behind for the view. So you cannot forget to set the binding context.
No.
Cool.
Okay, I think we should studio ready for us. So we'll go to our shared Xamarin Forms project. We can split this one in to have the views in this project and maybe have the view models in other projects if we want our view models to be completely free from references from Xamarin Forms. But I think in this project we will keep it in the same project, because we don't want to have so many projects here. It will be hard to.
It's not too hard to what do you call it? Break out later on anyway. So
yeah. So
case of simplicity.
So we can create a new class, call it stores view model, for example. Do you use to create an own view model base for that is project specific, or do you use from the MVVM frameworks?
I always create a empty one by default,
Okay.
and use that one. Then I can change it later on.
Okay, so let's do that view model. And then we can use the tiny MVVM view model here as a base class. Like that. And our view model for the stores view, we add view model as base class. So what we also used to do in every project is to install property change.fody. Johan maybe can tell us a little bit more about that, because you was the one that introduced it to me.
Well, how to start? When you have a view model in MVVM, you always have to implement iNotify property changed, and basically I have to add a hook for the setter at least for each property. And then you have to have a backing field for that. You're up to like 6 lines or 7 lines of code for each property. Fody is an IL intermediate language weaver that will, from metadata, what do you call it? From attributes.
Yeah, you don't have to use attributes anymore.
Okay, it magically knows what to replace, and you just have to write the properties as you normally do, and it will implement iNotify property changed for you.
You can use attributes if you want to add iProperty change, but if you have iProperty change, for example, in a base view model, it will scan for all the classes that have that interface and magically add some code for property change in there. But it looks like the Weaver file was not installed here.
No, it never is in in Visual Studio for Mac, so you have to add it manually.
Okay, so we can add it to this shared project, so we'll copy it to both the projects. And it's an XML file. What is it called?
Weaver.xaml, I think.
Or Weavers. I'm looking it up. Wrong project.
Wrong
You
project.
won't find it here. So
Weavers.xaml.
Not XML.
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 Oh, XML. Sorry.
Okay, so let's go with that.
Then Weavers.
Like this.
Weavers and namespace, maybe that's not really needed. And then the different weavers we want, which is property changed.
Property.
Property compared to. So this should be enough.
Yep.
So I don't think we need a namespace here.
No,
We can
No,
watch
I've
the
never
output.
added it.
Okay.
We could add look at the output and see if it adds anything.
Let's close that one. We never need to open that one again, hopefully. Okay, we have our view model. We also need to create our view. And we start from the forms content page XAML, and we will change the base class for it. So we call it stores view. And we can remove the base class in the code behind because we can add it in the XAML file instead. I think it's not necessary to have it on the both places, just make it more complicated if you want to change again.
I didn't know that.
Because it's a partial class, it's enough to have it in one. So you can go here, you need to import the namespace for TinyMVM. Like this. And we can then change the base class to view base. We don't need to have the content element. And now, if you want to add our view model as binding context, we can do it right here, like doing like this. We need to import a namespace, of course, of the view models. This, and then we can just use type arguments in the XAML. Maybe not have any intelligence for that. Like this. And then TinyMVM will do everything for you.
Everything?
Everything.
Cool.
It will write the code, everything. You can go home now, just start Visual Studio.
Sweet.
And you can drink some cola. Okay, but before we can start to use it, we need to write some code to set it up.
I will need some properties to store all the different stores.
Yeah, and we also need some boilerplate stuff. So we need to set up TinyMVM. We can do it in the app, but we can also break it out to a bootstrapper file or something like that. But we maybe can move it
create
later
a
if you want.
startup function at least.
Okay, startup function. I'm with you. Like this. And then we need to create the instance of our navigation helper. So navigation.
That is a TinyMVM thing,
It's
right?
a tiny navigation helper / TinyMVM thing.
Okay.
So we create a new forms navigation helper that is specific for forms. If you only use the navigation helper class, you will only get the general navigation helper. Mostly just an interface that is in that package. But the plan for the next version of TinyMVM is to reduce everything into one assembly. It will be the same code as in Tiny Navigation Helper, but I will add it like a submodule. So instead of creating two different packages, you can create one and have it in a few lesser assemblies. That will probably, or hopefully at least, decrease the startup time for Xamarin Forms, because Xamarin Forms scans every assemblies for render attributes.
Oh.
So we use the Forms Navigation Helper, and we just said in this application, this will also be removed in the next version. You don't have to do that anymore. And then we can start to register all views, or we can register all views in this assembly.
Get calling assembly.
Get executing.
Or this dot get type dot assembly.
Like this. So now every view in the assembly will get the name of the file, or at least of the class, as a key for the view. If you register them yourself, you can instead do like this. Register view, then you can set your own key.
Sweet.
And you can also override keys after here, for example. So you can register all views in your assembly, but then you can add, for example, if you want to have another view, if it's an iPhone app, not an iPhone, what is it called? An iPad, for example, if you can use if idiom, and then you can register another view for that one. So we also need to add the IOC stuff. So you're creating a container builder, and this is from Autofuck. And then we can, for example, we register the view into it, the helper into it. We can also register the views, but there are no points to do that right now. Do you know any command for open the IntelliSense view in Visual Studio for Mac? In Windows you can press Control Space to open it up if it's closed, but I don't know how to do that in Visual Studio for Mac, so if anyone know that, you can write it in the chat.
It's just control space, I think.
Will that work in Visual Studio for Mac as well?
Yeah.
Not for me.
You didn't have the same key bindings as I do.
No, probably not in that. Should not register in type either. We should use register instance because we already have an instance. That, and we also need to register all our view models if it will work with dependency injection, things like that. You can do register all views in your view model in your assembly if you want to scan it, but right now we just register the type.
Yeah. Stores view model.
Now we don't have anything else to register, but we will go back here later to register some service classes and things like that. So just create a container. Build a variable and use the build method. Then we can integrate TinyMVM together with autofuck. So if we will have a resolver in TinyVM that can be seen like a helper class for dependency injection if you want to resolve a class where you can use constructor injection, for example. And this class will also set up everything for you. So we need to set the resolver, and then we'll use the autofuck resolver and pass the container to it. So now I think we only have one thing left, and it's to call the TinyMVM initialize method. Like this. Some issues with the namespace here, so you have to write TinyMVM 2 times. Try to solve that to version 2.
Okay, let's use this magical stuff.
Yeah. So where should we go? To the store view model, or should we create some service classes maybe for getting the...
Yeah, or at least a property for the different stores, and maybe include the model's namespace.
Yeah, okay. So let's start with include the model's namespace. Right now we're only doing everything for iOS, but you can do exactly the same for Android as well. If there are something that are different from Android, we will tell you. So include the namespace for the models. Should we create a separate view model for each store, or should we have just use the model? I think we maybe can only use the model right now.
Yeah.
So let's create the first property. Scores. Items.
Places to buy stuff.
Should we use observable collection, or should we use list, or observable collection?
Yeah, observable collection.
In case one store like closes when you're in the app.
Okay,
like remove it. And it's just like, boop.
Yeah. Stores. Of course, we need to have it like a property, and if we don't use a property, the binding will not work. And that could be really frustrating and hard to find if you have forgot the get and the setters.
Yeah.
Well, not the setter is not required, but the get is required.
Do you implement the property iNotify property changed in your view model in TinyMVM?
Yeah, the view model base is doing that. Let's take a look of it.
So you don't need to do that in your own view model?
No, you don't have to do anything at all right now because we have photo property changed.
Yeah.
As well.
But that needs to be included somewhere in the chain of the view models to get the iNotify property changed.
So here we have the view model base. You have iNotify property changed here. You have a helper method for running on main thread. If you use Xamarin Essential, so you don't need to have that one anymore because Xamarin Essential have that nowadays. And I also think that Xamarin Essential is in the Xamarin template right now.
But we do need to have the attribute on the base view model for FODI to implement iNotify property
Yeah, we
change.
need this.
Yeah, but we need the
No, we don't
attribute.
need the attribute anymore.
We don't need anything more than this.
Is that obsolete?
Yes.
Magical.
Ooh.
And we also have some virtual things that is used by the view base that you can override in your view model also. For example, initialize will run on the first time a view is created. You have on appearing, on first appear, and on disappearing. If we navigate to it using the navigation helper, we'll also have the opportunity to send a navigation parameter. And the plan here is to add. So if you're using URL navigation in shell, it will be a dictionary of all parameters in here instead. But that will be in the upcoming version. We have this navigate to property that we can use in the XAML for navigation to key. It's Johan's property.
I think this is my code.
Yes, that's your code. Open model. I don't know why. Is this
Model.
also for the XAML?
Opens model async, yes,
Yeah.
most likely.
And we have a navigation property for the navigation helper, so we can use it directly in the view model without need to solve it.
Mm.
We have is busy property, is not busy.
Yeah, and there we have a good example of what all properties would look like if you didn't have Fody.
Yeah.
Then you would have all those lines of code. With Fody, you just declare the property in itself.
Yeah, because this is created so you don't need to have Fody installed because you have no dependency on Fody in tiny MVVM. Of course, we have erase property changed property, and we have also a set method that we can use that compares the fields if value have changed. If not, you set the value and they have not changed, it will not raise property changed args.
Yes.
So that's the view model base. So let's continue here. We have some issues here. Maybe need to write like this, models. Store. And now we can use the override and use initialize to load the data here. Do you used to have this in the beginning or in the end of the methods?
Depending on the method.
Of course, but in 99 or 100 cases I have it in the beginning. Because in this case I want to run the general initialize code first. If you have one, we can so we can add initialize code here as well, and another level of initialize.
I think it's also good practice to have base calls as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Or Mats? What do you think?
The only thing could be in ending, like on close, on disappearing. That might be needed to create to run the base function at another time.
Okay, so it's all about context then.
Yeah.
But mostly in the beginning.
Yeah.
Should I say at least? Okay, now we have this. So we need to load some data into it and use my Azure function that I created.
Yeah.
So
well, let's create some kind of service, or what should you call it?
I used to call it service, and I think Johan is doing it as well because we have worked with this since many years back, and we had a lot of architecture discussions in the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know who won, but service won.
Service won.
What was the other?
I think it's the name.
Repository was high on the list. Magic data store.
Magic data
places where data go and die. I don't know.
Yeah, services is fine.
I think we chosen service because of the workshop we did on Tech Days that year.
Okay, so we just had to pick one and
you
services.
had to pick one, and Johan Lindfors was very strong for services.
Okay.
And we agreed with him as well. So since that we have used services. Sometimes I maybe have a repository under the services, but not that often. Services. Then we of course need an interface to make it testable and
interfaceable.
Interface. Empty class I stores service.
It was
Source.
correctly spelled.
Yeah. So just task get stores or just get. It's a stores service. Should it be just get?
Get stores. It's
Get stores, yeah.
Get stores, okay.
And I would like to have it called store service, not stores service.
But it's multiple stores.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We can
No,
change.
no, just keep it like that. Yeah, I'm just saying. So when people complain,
We can discuss this in 30 minutes now.
Yep.
Singular or plural. Okay, we need an implementation, and if this was the .NET Core project, we can use C# 8 and default implementation, but that required the .NET Core 3 runtime for some reason. So you cannot use it in .NET Standard projects for now.
yeah, I'm getting agreements about store service.
Yeah.
From Anders here.
Okay. You're getting the comments or
No, internal comments.
internal comments? Secret messages to you. Should we call this just store service?
yeah, and change
And
the
the
interface
Okay,
name.
Okay, we change it. Store service. Is it
Service.
correct?
This
It's
is
info
for
services.
Service.
For,
Store service.
like if you're creating a database, you don't use the plural on the table name, or at least I don't.
On table names you use it. But
multiple.
Yes, on table names. But if you have it, for example, the entity framework model, then it's just a store, and the collection will be automatically created.
Pluralized. It will be. It's called pluralized. If you write car in entity framework, and then you look at the tables created, they're called cars, and the process is called pluralization.
And it has some magical AI stuff to know
so if you have a table of Anders, you get Anders's.
Okay.
It's true. Try it out.
I have to do that.
So you're still using entity framework?
Oh yeah.
I tried to use it in a Xamarin app 1 year
I
ago,
wouldn't
but
do
there
that.
were a lot of I have a lot of problem to get it working with SQLite. SQLite-net was much better and easier to use. So I will never go back to entity framework again in a Xamarin Forms app at least. I store.
One more time.
One more time. Yeah. Okay, so now we have an implementation here. Should we use the HTTP client directly here, or should we add another layer, a REST client layer, for example? Not for now.
Not for now. I would say use the HTTP client.
Yeah.
Not overdo
We
it.
can create a fancy implementation later on.
Okay.
We just have one request right now.
Okay, so let's go to our apps and we register the HTTP client in the IOC container, and so the IOC container can handle the lifecycle for it. We can also use a static variable somewhere, but I don't know where to put that one. So I prefer right now to register it in the container. Or what do you say, Mats?
Yeah.
Register type.
But if we're still going to have it in the IOC, we could use a REST client instead that uses HTTP client directly. But
Okay.
just continue.
Yes.
Parentheses. Or
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Single instance.
because
Okay.
singletons are always the best.
Yeah.
No.
Not really, but
Sometimes.
yeah. Okay.
But HTTP client have better performance
Yeah.
as a singleton. That's the reason. And we don't have time to tell you why. So if you don't want to know that, go to Google and Bing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's get back to the service. Then we can inject the HTTP client here. And to the hardest question.
You can just use the IntelliSense to create a private property
Okay.
from the constructor also. So that's awfully lot quicker.
Privat. It's not Swedish right now.
I think it's ignoring you actively.
Yeah.
Try to read only.
It's
HTTP
focused on writing the code instead of having it written.
Should we use underscore or not? I
Not.
tend to not use it because the IntelliSense don't
Yeah.
give me that suggestion.
I used to do
I
it.
mostly abandoned that.
Yeah, me too. Just because of the IntelliSense in my case. Okay.
And for those who don't know about dependency injection, this is where the magic comes to play. Just define your dependencies in the constructor, and it will automatically be injected for you.
The concept is called constructor injection.
Yes.
Okay, we need to check what URL we have for the service. So we can have it here. We can also take a quick how the result will look. Exactly like this is JSON and a list of stores with address, city, and coordinates. So let's close that one and go back to the service. Should you use get string or get async?
If we're going to do it quick and dirty, you get string async and just deserialize. Then we can create a much nicer REST client that uses stream instead and streams the content through JSON serialization.
Okay, let's do that later then.
Yeah.
But I prefer get async because then we'll get the HTTP response message back.
Yeah.
It's easier to handle errors that way. Do it dirty and insert the whole.
Yeah, because we're going to need some kind of REST client in the end.
Yeah.
So
No. Response. Oh wait.
response string maybe.
Do we already have JSON.NET or no? We need to add that one. We can also use the upcoming JSON system text.json in Xamarin apps. But while that's still in preview, we're going with Newtonsoft JSON.NET. I guess that is one of the most downloaded NuGet packages.
Yeah.
Don't
And it's
we
not
want
free. That's the
yeah.
interesting part.
He is working for Microsoft right now
Yes.
on the
Okay.
ASP.NET team, I think. So it's maybe or he that are created the new.
I think we want to add a result class in the iStore service as a task list stores or what?
We should return some.
We should return something.
Yeah.
Some values. I don't know.
List stores.
Yeah.
But do we need a return class, a result class?
No,
No.
but result in the task should return something.
Yeah, of course, I forgot that one.
Models and just copy it so we have it in the interface.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So now we are ready to deserialize this to a list of menu, not menu,
List
model
menu.
store. So we can call it the result maybe. So convert thing.
You shouldn't do serialize it to a list or?
Oh, of course. I think it's time for you to write soon. I have made so many mistakes today, so.
And it's
Come on.
one lesser than, yeah.
Return result.
To clarify, this is the quick and dirty way to do it, not the best patterns and practices way.
So maybe later we'll go back and make this much better,
Yeah,
Well, perhaps.
perhaps.
just see that it works and then we could refactor and see what
Yeah.
we're going to use.
Okay, so let's inject the store service into the view model. And how
Now,
can I use like
that-
this?
Create and initialize.
No,
Undo
meta
and
property. Undo and do it for real.
And do it for a field instead of property.
yeah,
of
and
course.
read only auto property from parameter.
Why? No.
Why was it public?
Use
It's one more, so let's read all of it.
In
You-
auto property in the field from parameter.
Field farm parameter. Yes,
Yeah,
read
that's
only.
the one. Okay. And then we can go here and use the service.
Stores.
Store service. Dot get stores.
And we have to await it.
Yeah, of course.
I'm gonna go and get you some power.
Only 21% of the battery left. I have one in my bag downstairs, at least.
Manager duty.
Yeah.
And create a new observable collection.
Yeah. Stores. Oh, you should not use the add method
No,
because
we
it
want
will
to
affect
create
the performance. But we also, of course, need to create it first. But never use the add method for adding a whole list. Maybe add one or two items.
Single items or up to some percentage at least.
Yeah, but never for the first creation. If you already have 20 items and want to add one or two, you can use add or remove and things like that. But instead, it's better to use new observable collection because you don't trigger a new rendering of the UI for every time you're using add.
Yeah,
that is the case. If you don't do like that. Okay, so now we can go to the view.
Yeah, and just use the new bindable property.
Yeah. Okay, so let's use collection view today.
Yeah.
As we did last time. Collection view. And now we can create a binding as well. Item source. We bind it to the source. Have you tried compiled bindings in Xamarin Forms?
Compiled bindings?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Probably not. You may have heard about compiled bindings and Xbind in UWP apps.
Yeah.
But the Xamarin Forms team has taken a little bit of another approach. You don't use Xbind, you will use binding. But instead you will go here and you can set the data type for the whole class or just for separate items.
Okay.
So we can data type, in this case, it will be the same as the view model. And here, if I write stores build and I compile it, I will get a build error.
Ooh. Is it even faster or?
I don't know in Xamarin Forms, but when they introduced it for UWP, that was a lot of faster. Maybe binding property stores. Not
Do
found.
you even get IntelliSense when creating bindings?
I don't think so. Not for the moment, at least. Hopefully they will add that.
Yeah, now it's actually possible.
Yeah. Yes, and we can add the empty view as we talked about last time, using the empty template. I don't really know why, because they probably have stores, but if they get an ID
while loading.
Yeah, loading, but they maybe get an ID to start just using online stores or something like that. But let's define it just to show that we can use it in other cases. So grid, content view. Don't need to use a grid if you only want one
item.
One item.
Or one child.
One child item. I think both words can be used. Vertical options, and we put a text in the middle of the view. No store.
For you.
For you. Okay. And let's define the item template then. And as we also talked about last time, you don't need to have the view cell wrapper around the content right now, so you can just start to define the content for each row. We don't have to set anything about element recycling in collection view as well, because that is default now.
Yeah. Do we have pull to refresh in collection view?
Good question. I hope so. Doesn't look like that.
No.
Not yet, but it's still in preview, so hopefully they will add that one as well. Because that's really nice in list view that we have pull to refresh built in. Okay, just start like this. And now when we're using compiled bindings, we need to define
The data type.
data type for the data template as well. and right now we need to import models namespace as well. Like this. Okay, let's try to run this, and we can use hot reload to build a better UI.
This is perfect.
This is perfect. I don't think our UX designer
Close
likes
to
this.
close to the edge and no margins.
We maybe need to invite Simon here to.
Yeah.
We might need a way to navigate to the page.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's not
Do
necessary.
you think hot reload can do that for us?
Just add the
Probably
view.
not. Or perhaps you can.
How does the hot reloading work with the IOC and
I think it would work pretty well in many cases, at least. Stores. What's wrong?
everything? So just
Everything.
run.
Okay, let's run. Nothing was wrong. Only the IntelliSense.
Oh crap!
Ah.
Dependency injection.
Yeah, we haven't registered the service.
The service.
So the container. So that's why. So register type store service as, so we can use the interface when we resolve it. Store service. Okay, let's try again. Let's go to the store tab. Ba-dum.
iOS.
It's not secure, but I think
Yeah,
it's
we
enough
have
to
to-
just change to HTTPS, because the Azure function should support HTTPS. So you can just go here and add an S. Ba-bam.
Wow.
So here we have the name of all the stores, but I don't think that says pretty much where the store is.
Centrum.
Centrum, yeah. So let's go to the view and add some more properties.
See if it survives.
So maybe also want to add some padding. Let's see if it will stay on this page.
Yay.
Yeah, it worked.
That's amazing.
I thought it should go to the first tab when we use, but not. Of course, we need to add a title here as well. Stores.
Sweet.
Sweet, sweet.
All we're lacking now is some kind of sense of UX.
Yeah, but that's not our strongest point. But we maybe can add some.
That's what I mean. We
We-
lack
we-
a sense
Yeah,
of
okay.
UX.
We could add some formatted text for the
Okay.
label. That's a really good thing to just know, that you can do different formattings on the same label.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. And from the beginning, it was not bindable.
No.
But now it is, so it's pretty good. I often forgot that I can use that one, but it's pretty nice.
I
Yeah.
have no clue what you're talking about, so this better be good.
Formatted text. No,
Formatted
formatted
text.
text. And then
No.
formatted string.
Is it a separate property formatted text? I thought that we should use the text property, but not. Okay, let's remove that one.
Yep.
Formatted text. And formatted string inside of that. Like this.
And then
or
we have and then we have spans for the different
span.
parts.
So
Okay.
text. Is that correct?
Binding, yeah.
Binding name. Now we have IntelliSense of the
fancy.
properties.
Wow.
That was really nice.
We can just add some more. Copy
Yeah.
paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste.
Can add a comma.
Okay, in bold.
Yes, only the comma. And we can add
Address.
sit here.
Okay, now we didn't have IntelliSense. Ooh,
Strange.
Wow.
fancy. And now you can change like font color, font size,
Text size. Text color.
text color. Yeah. Oh, green.
This
That's
would be nice.
Yes.
So beautiful.
Yeah. And it is really usable now when you can bind to it. Before
Yeah.
it was not usable at all.
No.
I don't know why they don't have that from the beginning.
So what about the performance? If you do a list of a huge number of...
I don't know, but we will have a reusable list, so probably it will not be a problem.
I wouldn't even guess that it's quicker.
Maybe.
It's one text rendering
Oh.
instead of different controls that you have to lay out differently. But that's only a guess.
Okay, so let's make this bold.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah. Do you think we get a design prize for this app?
So what's the next step?
We maybe want to add the address
Map.
below, or a map here, or for the next view.
Maybe for the next
For
view.
the next view, okay.
The map view is actually kind of uninteresting in an app. For the first
Yeah.
view, I guess you know which store you're interested in,
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
then
know.
if you're, maybe it should be sorted
Yeah,
for
we can
the.
sort it before we go
Yeah,
to the map.
so we actually just get our location and sort it by the distance.
Yeah, I have used apps that the first view in the store finder in an app is a map. And you need to scroll and you need to find
Yeah.
it because it's the center on your position. And if the store is 10, 20 kilometers away, you will not see it from the beginning. So I think the list is the better first view.
Yeah, maybe
As you
plot
say.
the distance to each store.
Yeah, and maybe you can add an option, show stores on map or something
Yeah.
like that for users that are more interested in that.
We just click on one of them to have a map with just
Yeah,
that store.
that's a good pattern, I think.
Yep.
We maybe need to invite Simon, our UX expert, to talk
Yeah.
about things like that and help us make this app a little bit nicer later. Okay, we already have Xamarin Essentials, and Xamarin Essentials have helper methods for
Location,
location,
and
yeah.
permissions.
Okay, but we can go to Xamarin Essential on GitHub and read the documentation, because there are some great stuff there, and it's pretty easy to get started with. And also James Magno, the man behind them, have videos for each service, I think.
Okay.
Or at least he published one new video every week or something like that on the Xamarin YouTube channel.
So geolocation.
Yeah, yeah. We can go to the documentation here somewhere. Geolocation. This geocoding is also pretty nice. If you want to look up an address, for example. Okay, we are iOS right now, but we can take a look how to do it on Android first. We need to add some permissions: access course location, access find location. We also need to add those, but we can do that in the UI, I think.
The UI.
We don't need to write this assembly attributes. We can go just add it
No,
the
by
graph-
clicking.
by clicking. Exactly. So let's go to the options.
But the features would be required, I guess, when you just there is required permissions. This is uses permissions and uses features,
Yeah.
and it's not required. So I would have copied it instead.
Okay, let's copy it instead.
Disable app usage if you don't have a GPS.
Okay. Have we copy all of them, or?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then instead of using this, we will open the manifest file that are located under the properties. somewhere here we maybe can open source, or do we need to do like this?
I think you have to
Open
use
with the
source code editor.
source code. Okay. And just add them here. Like this?
Yep.
Have they already added the permissions thing? In main activity? Yes,
Request
they have.
permission result. Oh.
So we don't have to add that.
And
anymore.
the essentials in it also.
So that's great that they have added that to the template, but they need to add a new line here.
Do a pull,
That-
do a
very
pull
important.
request.
That is the most important thing. Using location.
We
And
need
the
to add
iOS
the iOS stuff.
Yeah, we can do that first, of course. So we just copy this one.
So that's only what message should be shown when you're requesting location permission.
Source. I can open it in the source code editor instead. I think that's nicer. If we
It's not possible.
It's not possible.
No.
Okay, that's not good.
You can always start Notepad.
Yeah, of course. Or
No,
we should do
it's
code.
Yeah, advanced Notepad.
We need your location to track you.
Yo track yo.
Your location. Okay. I'm not a friend with this keyboard today. Okay, then we can go back to the view model. Or should we do this in the view model or in the service? In the view model.
In the view model, because you might need to find your stores without location tracking.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So if you just use geolocation, we can take a look at what properties we have. So we can start to get last known location, I think, or get location, I think. Get location is probably the most exact.
Yeah,
But-
it will trigger a new request for a location based on now or future. The last known location, if some other app has been tracking your location, you would get the last known without triggering the request to actually get the new location.
But let's track a new location.
Yeah. So in Essentials, you don't need to check if it's available at all.
I don't think you can you? Geolocation dot.
It's available. Oh,
I think they handle it under the hood
yeah.
for you. So maybe we should install the map
And
package because there are some helper classes in there too. But we don't want.
What do you think about just getting the location out as text and then wrap up this session and continue? with the
yeah,
next one?
What we said we should do.
We just
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 try it out, get
debug,
a-
just
get a
debug
location
and
and
get the
text.
location.
Okay, let's put the
Celebrate and go and do something else.
debugger there, and we also need to check location here. We can get the location of the Apple headquarter. Time goes fast when you have fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we have decided to make this on Mondays.
We do? Okay. Well,
It was your suggestion.
it
Mo-
was?
you said Mondays or Fridays.
Okay, well, Mondays work fine.
Mondays, okay. So let's go with that. Stores. And now we'll get this question if you want to allow it, and we'll hopefully get a location object.
Sweet.
It's not the Apple headquarter.
60 times. No,
It's
here.
probably our
around here,
yeah, it's our
probably
location.
around here somewhere.
Okay, that's strange, but since I started building iOS apps, they have had problem with that function in the simulator. So,
Mm-hmm.
But,
I just
this is
wanted
great.
to see if that's calculate distance.
yeah, they
you
all-
don't need it anymore.
okay, that's great because before I used it from the map package, but it's better to use this one.
Yeah.
You don't have to add
Open maps as
That's
sync.
open maps. I think yeah, but we don't want to open the map app.
Really?
We can do if we want to, for example, have navigation to the store. We can open the map app. But if we want to show it in the map, we need to add Xamarin Forms map package.
Yeah.
Okay, should we wrap up?
Yes. So we had lesser bugs. That's good.
Yeah, and more features.
And hopefully better screen resolution.
Mm-hmm.
But we are of course very welcome to feedback. Just reach out to us in social media. I prepared this contact us view, but I have not added all information for Johan and Mats. XXX.
I'm porn.
But we will add that to next time. I forgot to ask you before we start. Okay, so that's everything for now. Thank you for watching.
Thank
And,
you.
Hopefully you'll be with us next time as well. Thank you.
Thank
Let's
you.
go work.
Okay. Yeah, back to work.
Back to work.